Mr. Chair, we're ready to go. If I don't know if you'd like me to start with a roll call, I'm happy to do that.
I would appreciate it.
Okay. All right, I'll see, hopefully this is alphabetical order. Rich Berlandi,
Here.
Emily Brick,
I am here.
perfect. Dave Fox,
Here.
Bob Hannon,
I am here.
Robert Eisner,
Here.
Mark Simpson,
I'm here.
Ned Stachin.
Here.
Thank you. And Jay Tulin.
I'm here.
Okay. All right, we're ready to get started.
Okay, first item on the agenda tonight is Old Business 402 Farmington Avenue LLC. And Shannon, just to verify with you, we're only able to go with the 6 regular members at this point in time, correct? Because we're all here.
Correct. You're all here and the hearing has closed. So at this point, only the 6 of you can participate in, the 6 regular members can participate in the discussion and the vote,
Yep.
assuming you vote. Actually, never mind.
So I will start with you, Dave, seeing as how the first 2 dodged the bullet. Just kind of what your thought process is, where you think we are, what your take is on the application.
Hey, lucky me. I guess, I've been looking over all the stuff for a couple of days now. And I think I'm ready to vote. I'm leaning towards granting the application. Want to hear from my fellow members on their thoughts before making the final decision. But primarily due to the fact that they've avoided direct impacts to wetlands. They're citing their project outside of the watershed of the vernal pools. They're using the existing wetland crossing, so that's why there's no direct wetland impact. They've minimized the development within the upland review area. There's probably 2 indirect impacts that I was looking at. One is the stormwater flow to the northern wetland. There, the stormwater management system has multiple measures for water quality mitigation, and the collection system mimics the existing drainage pattern at the site. The other indirect impact I was looking at was the loss of amphibian habitat for the critters in the vernal pool. I would think some impacts to them are possible, but they've minimized it. There's still going to be a significant habitat available to them with the directional buffer to the south and west. During the hearing process, the applicant included the inclusion fencing and the Cape Cod curbing, further limiting impacts. So overall, as I say, I think I'm leaning towards approval. I thought that the interveners made a pretty good point about the intensive development of this site, which is in between the high density development to the east and the low density development to the west. But given the fact that there's apparently not a significant environmental impact, I don't think this commission can weigh in on that. That's more of a planning and zoning issue. Glad they removed the stub driveway towards the south, because I think extensive development of that southern portion lead to all the rationale I have for approving this would disappear. And lastly, I'd like to thank the staff for arranging all of the voluminous evidence that we had and making this a little bit easier. So that's my thoughts for now.
All right. Thanks, Dave. Robert, how are you feeling about it?
Yeah, and I'll start my comments where Dave ended, and that's thanking the staff for doing a tremendous job at organizing all the information, bringing in additional legal support for the commission to help guide us through the process. Mr. Chairman, thank you for your organization and getting us through what was a long hearing. I too have been through all of the documentation that has been provided, both legal and technical. We've seen a lot of and heard a lot of differing perspectives, both legal and technical. But when I come back to focusing on the potential wetland impacts of the application and using that as the focus of assessing the information, I come to a point where I would look favorably on approving the application because I think there is minimal indirect impacts to the wetlands, and the potential for harm, I think, is minimal with the overall development. I think the applicant has done a lot of changes in the design to address some of the early concerns that the commission raised, things like moving the garage to increase separating distance to the wetlands. As Commissioner Fox said, some of the improvements for allowing free movement of the amphibians and the improvements to the soil and erosion control measures of the site. I think that the site proposal is compatible in the upland review area impacts to have minimal impact on the wetlands. So I would be leaning towards a motion to approve the application. And that concludes my comments.
Thanks, Robert. Mark?
I agree with what I've heard already, but I do want to thank the staff. There was a lot of juggling to do. There was so many parties involved. It probably wasn't an easy process for them, but they handled it exceptionally well. So I commend them for that. I am also ready to vote, and I am leaning to approve this application. I think the applicant has done what they can do to minimize the impact to the wetlands area. Actually, I think it's very minimal, if any, would be impacted. The only thing I would say in the future is that the undeveloped land that is adjacent to this property, I would give it that, we consider this piece of property very closely. That other piece of property, I would be very tensely looking to see what possible development might be in that area, and I'd be very concerned about anything happening there, and we'll review it closely if ever an application comes in front of this commission. That's it.
All right, thanks, Mark. Ned?
Yeah, again, I think both parties made, good arguments. And I don't think we've had an application with as much information and documents and parties involved as this one. So it was a lot of work, and commend the staff on how well they did with all of it. Going back to our site walk, where we kind of walked up the utility right away and looked over to the areas where the apartments would be. And I just didn't get a sense. I know it, as you get closer to the homes, that it may be a little more rural, but it's still, in regards to the character of the area and how will it affect the wetlands. I got to remember that this construction is about 700 feet from Route 4, and this section of Route 4 gets, I checked the ADT, it's 22,000 vehicles a day. So, we're not talking about a pristine area, and I think that with the public works utility yard right there, and this being a former dump area in parts of this area, I just think that this area has survived a lot of things, and I think it will continue to survive with minimal effect on the wetlands. So I'm leaning toward approval also. Thank you.
Thanks, Ned. Jay?
You're all making it very simple for me being the last one to talk. And at the expense of being redundant, this was a very complicated thing with a lot of information. And I also want to thank the staff for making this as simple and easy to digest as possible. For me, it was very difficult to digest, and I've really kind of struggled with this. You know, I agree with what everyone else is saying. For me, what it boils down to, trying to do the right thing, is that what concerns we have seem to have been comprehensively addressed. And based on that, I would say that I would be ready to vote and ready for approval for the application. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Jay. I'll add my 2 cents for what it's worth. I mean, to me, one of the bigger issues here is that in looking at the scope of the project, somehow, some way, they've managed to stay out of the wetlands. In terms of, I was going back and looking at the roadway for Quarry Road, and even the water and sewer lines have already been extended beyond the stub of the road. So even that area has been taken care of. I think it might have been a little different had the existing wetlands crossing not have been in place. I mean, the way that it ended up being installed, I think, has helped with the vernal pools. It's on the opposite side of the road for most of the construction is going on. So from that perspective, I don't see that much of an impact on the vernal pools in terms of where most of the activity that is within the 150-foot setback area are basically the stormwater detention basins. I mean, it's not uncommon to have them there. I'd rather have them there than, you know, right on or right up to the edge of the wetlands. So, I mean, those are some of the things. One of the things I did find that, Shannon, I think staff may have to look at this, because I'm also inclined to approve this application, but in the early pages that were submitted for this application, in particular, I'm looking at map EX-1. There's identified on the southern border of the property a manhole, and I can't tell if it's a 6-inch or 8-inch pipe. I don't know what the manhole is associated with, but somehow, some way, that manhole and pipe have not been included in terms of where the stormwater basins are located. And it would be the basin primarily to, I guess it would be the east. I'm curious as to what that manhole is for. So that's something that, if this project were approved, I think that's something the engineering staff would have to take a close look at, because I just don't see anything connecting to it. So I really don't know what that is for.
I do have an answer to that, Bob, if you'd like. We reviewed that, and they went out and did additional research, and I believe what the finding was is it ties somehow to an old fire suppression system for 400 Farmington Avenue that's no longer in use. So the applicant's aware, they've done some initial additional investigations. There'll be further investigations in order to completely close that out, but if I recall correctly, it involved the applicant, the fire marshal was involved, so they're aware, and they are fully understand that needs to be closed out properly.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure, because like I said, going back and looking at the maps, it popped up on one, but yet on all of the plans associated with the project, it was not being shown. I think a couple of the other things that I would probably be looking at is, I would want to make sure that if this does go forward with an approval, that there is in place a wildlife mitigation plan, whether that be for the ribbon snake, the turtles, the frogs, you know, any of the salamanders, things of that nature. I think the company had talked about doing that. I know the engineer had. So that's something I think that should be addressed. we had a number of people talking about it, and although it's not so much a wetland issue, it's part of our application package. So I would also be looking at maybe the low spillage lighting adjacent to the wetland system to minimize impacts there. I do like the use of the Cape Cod berms, which, well, at least I think they mean Cape Cod curbing. They said berms, but I think it's curbing, and that's for the roadway. So those are, those are some of the other issues I think that were discussed, but I didn't hear anybody else, mentioning. But as I said, I'm leaning in favor of approving it too. And for me, again, the biggest issue is this project is not in the wetlands. And had that roadway not been previously built, it might be a totally different scenario. But the roadway's in, the pipes are in, the sanitary sewer's in, and the water's already in and extends beyond. And I think the other thing that I know it was discussed a little bit about the
SUV airborne.
the ponds, the vernal pools.
Speculated and believed that Tiger Woods inadvertently hit the
Hang
accelerator.
on a second.
Though Woods told investigators he doesn't remember the crash, did recover the
There he is. There we go.
Okay.
Sorry, Mr. Chair.
One of the things that we had originally talked about on this was the possibility of a conservation easement over the vernal pool area. And in going back and looking at some of the maps, I'm inclined to take a look at it and sort of require it and have it run basically parallel to the, I guess it's the southeastern property line if I'm looking at the north map up in the right corner. But I mean, so the bottom part, but have it run parallel to that line, but right at the edge of the existing paving. It's a little over 100 feet. And I think that in essence would encompass the critical 100-foot buffer area for the vernal pools. But I also agree with my colleagues in that it may be rather difficult to try and develop the remaining portion of this site, just given everything that we've been looking at and the existing location of the proposal would be significantly different if it were switched to the west, and they were trying to develop that parcel. I think it would have been an entirely different situation. So I'd be looking at probably going in with at least a minimum 100-foot conservation easement to cover that area, the critical area around the vernal pools, but that's just my take on it. So that's kind of where I'm coming from on it. So based on what I've been hearing from folks, does somebody want to make a motion to approve this application?
This is Ned. Do we need to do that using the resolutions that were draft? And I would agree with your conservation easement, or to cover the area of the vernal pools. I'm not sure. I like the idea of just running parallel to that property line that, like, I think is to the southwest, and like where would 100 feet be on there, and where?
So, Mr. Chair, if I understand correctly, you want, so this is one vernal pool, this is a second vernal pool.
Yeah.
I believe this is the 100-foot envelope to the vernal pool, if I'm
Yep.
recalling correctly. And then this is the 150-foot upland review to the actual wetland boundary, which
Correct.
does differ from the vernal pool pockets.
Yep.
So 100 feet is up in here to the vernal pool. And we could, obviously, we'd box it out and then you said stop at the roadway edge, right?
Well, I think that, yeah, that would sort of be my starting point in running parallel to that lower property line. That I think
Right.
pretty much gets in almost that entire 100-foot setback from the vernal pools.
Right. And of course, this is the new property line, so you couldn't cross over. So you'd come up here, run parallel to this line, come across, and then get a reasonable, whether 10 or 15 feet off of that roadway edge and come down, whatever, in case there's minor maintenance needed, but.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, I think that would work well with this. And again, you and Mark, I agree that developing that section of land would, as it all drains down to those vernal pools directly, would be a much harder sell for me. So I think putting in the conservation easement is a good message on that. So I'll make a motion for the resolution for the approve the application, to approve the application according to the outline of the resolution and the conservation easement with 100-foot width.
Okay,
Does that cover it?
No? Okay. Is there a second?
I would second with the addition that in addition to the 20 draft conditions prepared by staff reflective of the commission's direction, that we also include a 21st condition for development of a wildlife protection and hazard mitigation plan for approval by town staff, that the design incorporate Cape Cod curbing and low impact lighting plan also for approval by town staff, and clarification that the conservation easement, which is our proposed condition number 3, be 100-foot distance from the vernal pools, and that habitat species plantings be provided at intervals in between the 50-foot medallion markers. Standard, Ned, are those acceptable? Because you made
Yes.
the motion. I was.
Yeah. You lost me on the 50-foot marker intervals.
Yeah, right now we're gonna have
Oh,
the
that's right.
standard conservation medallions.
That's
at
right, yeah.
50-foot increments.
Yes. Yes. Now, I was confusing the 100-foot setback with the 50-foot increments on the medallions. So that's where I got confused.
Yeah,
But
and
yes,
this
I
way-
understand now.
Yeah, and this way we'll have not only the boundary markers with our standard medallions, but we'll have habitat species plantings in between to help delineate the boundary, but also provide additional biodiversification.
Okay, so what I
Agreed.
want to do is I'm just going to go around to everybody quickly to see if there's anything else they want to add or if we're okay with what's on the table. So Dave?
Oh, that sounds good, the buffer zone, conservation easement, and the wildlife plan that you had mentioned. Thank you.
Okay, Robert?
Yep, I'm good.
Mark?
I'm fine also.
Ned?
Agreed.
Jay?
I'm good. That's what I meant by comprehensive when I made my comments before, is that you're covered a lot of ground with these conditions.
And
Thank you.
I'm in agreement also. So seeing as how we seem to have some consensus on this, those voting in favor of the application, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstaining? Hearing none, it passes. I would also, before we get into the new part of the agenda, I would also like to thank staff for all the help they've given me on trying to navigate this complex application. So your efforts on this are much appreciated, so thank you.
You're welcome, and thank you to all of you for putting in the extra time as well. So it's a two-way street. Thank you very much. Hang on, I've got a chat here, Mr. Chair. I just want to see. Okay, all set. Mr. Chairman, just as an FYI, member Mark Simpson is having to step away. So if we get to a point of voting, we'll need to appoint someone. We can appoint someone to fill his position on the next upcoming items for discussion.
I would go ahead and appoint Rich.
Okay.
So on to new business.
On to-
First item, Ms. Porter's school.
Correct, and I believe we've got Tristan Wallace and Katie Bradley on the call with us at the moment.
Yes.
Yes, okay.
Yes,
And,
we're here.
okay. And I think we left it, there was no site walk required at this, for this project. Let's see, it was accepted, determined not significant, or there was a consensus that it was not significant, no site walk. Engineering comments have been sent to the applicant and to the commission members. I think that's the current status. Tristan, do you want to comment on the engineering comments that have been received?
Yes. We had I had a conversation with Bruce and with Shannon, and I believe most of the comments are easily handled for the most part. Nothing seemed to have a significant impact on the site. No changes to the site design, no real changes to the drainage. There was a comment pertaining to the wetland itself, but some recent investigation uncovered the outlet to that wetland. So we feel that's a adequate response to one of the comments, and there was a conversation that pertained to a forebay area inside the wetland, but well, not but we do feel the tension system with the isolator row and the hydrodynamic separator that precedes the wetland does give significant reduction in sediment to the wetland. So from a impact standpoint, I do believe we're improving the condition of the stormwater, as well as reducing some of that stormwater that goes to the wetland. I believe there was a conversation regarding some maintenance of the wetland. I'm not sure when the last time it was maintained, but I know that was a conversation between Katie Bradley of Miss Porter's and the town. And I don't want to speak on behalf of anybody, but I feel that's something that can be resolved relatively fairly without it being deemed as a significant impact from the project.
Yes. Just commission members, I spoke with Ms. Bradley earlier, I think it was today, regarding that matter, and we discussed the fact that this wetland detention basin has been in existence for quite some time, and it has not been, these features become wetlands or detention basin. It does require some maintenance, and we thought perhaps now would be a good time to take care of some of that maintenance. There are some beautiful daffodils and other plantings that are coming up, but there's also some sediment buildup and phragmites that are growing in the wetlands. So as part of the project and overall work that's being done, I thought that perhaps now would be a good time to attack that maintenance element. Obviously at the end of the construction element, once all the work's done, use that opportunity to clear this out and get a reshape and reform it. So that was the thought regarding that.
And the school is in agreement. It was a part of our plan all along.
So if I understand, it's just basically to try and incorporate a maintenance plan where maintenance has not previously been done for quite some time.
Yes,
Correct.
it was done about 10 years ago, but it's time to do it again.
Okay. Now, seeing as how we're out of the old business realm, everybody gets a chance to talk again. So I will start with Rich. How about your take on this one? Any questions, comments?
I don't have any questions or comments. Everything I see here will improve the situation. I would support it.
Okay. Emily, how are you feeling about this one?
I think that it's probably in everybody's best interest if I don't speak up because I work at Ms. Porter's, so I have.
Well, there is a financial consideration to take into account. So, yeah, I understand.
I mean, I'm happy to have opinions, and they're very positive opinions, but I don't know if it's appropriate for me to.
It would probably be best if you didn't on this one. So, Dave.
I guess I'm all set. I looked over the engineering comments from the town, and if they're okay, I know they're looking for maybe for more infiltration or further detention. But if those discussions continue or they're satisfied, I'm okay too.
Robert? Is Robert here?
I don't know, where did Mr. Eisner go? Mr. Eisner is muted.
He's muted.
Of course I am. I had a wonderful conversation with myself.
Did you win the argument?
I lost again. Overall, I think the plan is well prepared. I have a question for Shannon. That's whether or not all of the engineering comments have been addressed. It sounded like you've had a lot of conversations with Ms. Porter's and the engineering company. And are there any outstanding issues that need to be addressed?
No, and I think as Tristan noted, that they're agreeable to addressing all of them. We'll work through the 4-bay item with Mr. Sear when he gets back. Bruce is on vacation this week, so. But I think that's the only item that's kind of needs to be discussed back and forth, but I don't think it's a sticking point on either party's side. So that's my understanding. And I had asked Tristan to please not resubmit plans at this point. So that was my request. I didn't want another set introduced. Right. We're also going to TPZ next week. So so that was at my request.
Thank you, Shannon. And I would be comfortable with a motion that had a condition that required the applicant to work with the engineering and planning staff on final details, and that would include development of appropriate wetland maintenance plan. I was fine with the conversation that there's going to be some work with the pond area at the end of the project, and that would be a good time to do that. End of my comments.
Thanks. Mark is not on, right?
Correct. He
Okay.
stepped away.
Ned?
Yeah, I think it's a good improvement. I think plans look like they're well done, and retentions, the underground retention area looks good, and so as long as they're following the guidelines or the recommendations from town staff, that should be a positive vote. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Jay?
That sounds like a good plan to me, and the improvements that they talked about tonight are going to help, and I also would support approving it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm in the same boat. I mean, one of the things I do like is going back and doing some maintenance work in the wetland area just to make sure that it continues to function as it's supposed to. But Shannon, I do have a question for you on the items for consideration. I'm not positive what you mean by C, discuss phasing timing of Sarah Lane construction to avoid washout of area and downstream impacts. Can you clarify that a little bit?
Yes, just because of the steep slope here, and wondering at the time, and I don't know if it's been discussed and I apologize because I know I've had a couple of conversations on this, but the thoughts of what I didn't want is that this to be all opened up completely, and then, okay, now we're working over here, and then I get a heavy rainstorm and that this washes out. So it's getting a detailed construction sequence that when this pavement gets ripped up, basically the following week-ish, that these pavers are going back in, or that it's being done in sections so that we don't have the entire driveway ripped up for weeks on end. That I think was the concern. So.
Okay, and has there been dialogue about submitting some type of phasing plan which would directly address that?
Yes. As a response to that question, we do the entire project is about an acre, 1.2 acres. Sarah Lane, that portion being less than half an acre of that. So the idea would be to phase Sarah Lane first, actually introduce a sediment trap near the wetland, probably right in there where the parking area kind of loops out, probably in that area. Introduce a sediment trap to help with, so there's no flow of sediment into the wetland. Phase that, and then continue on with the parking area, probably from the tennis court down to the southern portion of the site, with that being last. So that was the kind of the idea, possibly around the construction phase, and of course that we'll get more feedback from Ms. Porters on how they would need to handle any type of temporary parking, but that was the idea around the phasing.
Okay, well, thank you. That helped.
Excuse me, Robert, can I was kind of looking for clarification on that. So I see the three sections of the stone pavers. Is the rest of it also pavers, or is it like that pressed asphalt that's made to look like pavers?
Are you speaking about Sarah Lane itself?
Yeah, Sarah Lane itself. Yeah.
The full lane will be pavers. There are three different types of pavers. One along the border and then a paver in the middle.
Okay.
Yep.
Thank you.
So that'll also help infiltrate water too. So that's a good thing. Okay. All right. So we seem to be pretty much in consensus with this one. So are there any other questions, comments, concerns? No, hearing none, would somebody, we've already accepted the application. No, yeah, we accepted the application, so we can vote on it now. So would somebody care to make a motion to approve the application?
This is Ned. I'll make a motion to approve the application.
With the conditions that people had raised?
Oh, yes, with the conditions that they work with town staff on meeting the requirements of their recommendations 1 through 10, right? 1 through 10, yeah. And anything that may come up as the project proceeds.
Okay. Is there a second?
This is Jay, I'll second.
Okay, I'll just quickly ask again, any questions, comments, concerns on this? Hearing nothing, those in favor of the project and application, state aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstaining? Congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay.
Next up, 130 Bird's Eye Road.
Shannon?
Yes.
Hi.
I can
Put on the grading drainage plan in that group. If you could, please.
Yes, sir. This is a full plan set that you had submitted.
These are the revised ones, yeah.
correct.
Can't read it on an 8.5 by 11 though.
Is, this the plan you're looking for, Biff?
No,
L2? Which,
nope, it'll be L4 or 5. Keep going.
oh, here you go, L4 with the drainage.
Okay, that's it. Yeah. Good, thank you.
Zoom in so everybody can see, and then you let me know which section of that plan you want to start with, and we'll,
We'll start with the north end, with the revised where we had to move the water quality basin 1 in the north, in the lawn, towards the wetlands. Anyway, thank you for going on the wetland walk with us. We incorporated all the comments, both from the town staff review as well as our site walk. And we revised all the plans, sent them in also with a comprehensive hydraulic analysis by Skip Alford, our engineer. So the biggest change, as you can see, is we see the line with the S through it. Bruce showed us at the walkthrough where the sanitary line was. We plotted it, and we were able to move the basin over to the wetland, over by the forest area, still in the lawn. We were able to avoid cutting into where we think the septic line is, which we all talked about on the site. We reworked the numbers. We went around, Skip Alford and I did. So this basin is over designed by 32 cubic feet. So we've got ample water renovation volume there. Now to the one in the back, water quality basin 2, the one to the west of the parking lot. Not only do we get comments for cleaning out all the behind the building, as well as to the south of that basin, all the foreign invasives we can do in the upland area there. We also had to drop the basin by another inch because it needed more capacity. We actually are 72 cubic feet more capacity than the hydraulic analysis required. Also, we found out, it's probably because I'm an idiot when it comes to math, we have doubled the pervious benefit to this design. We went from 210 square feet up to 471 square feet of reduced impervious on the site, as represented by this design. And as Shannon will tell you, we sent her a whole package with all the the stuff we clarified with her, and also I worked extensively with Bruce before he went up. So we said we had all of their comments were addressed, as well as the comments made in the field that we put on the plan during our site walks. So that in a nutshell is it.
okay. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll go around with commissioners, see if they have any questions this time. We'll start with Jay.
Sounds good to me. I think one question that came up was, and maybe this is going to be addressed later on, but during the site walk, they talked about the entrance driveway and expanding that. So I just want to make sure that that's being addressed. Otherwise, it sounds like a good plan to me.
We didn't. They wanted us to check. We actually created a plan that shows all the turning, turning analysis, so that we don't have to expand the way it's designed now accommodates all your largest emergency vehicles in town. So.
Oh, okay, good. Okay, I wasn't so sure. I wasn't sure. We had talked about you were doing something different in that entrance, and I just wanted to ask.
Yeah, we wanted to make sure that, we just wanted to verify that the turning radii, I thought we had, but I did a plan and sent it to Bruce that shows the turning radii, and it was in this new submittal as well.
Okay, good. That's it. That's my only comment and question.
All right. Thanks, Jay.
Thank you.
Ned?
Are the roof drains going to the sediment pool as well?
Yes.
Okay. And in our site visit, we had found a broken pipe or something that's
being replaced. That's the existing corrugated metal pipe that's all corroded and beaten up. Our plan is always been predicated on pulling that pipe up, and it wouldn't work now because it doesn't go through where our new basin location is anyway, in the north lawn, so.
Okay. All right, yeah, as long
That
as
would
that's
be-
addressed, then I'm okay with it.
Okay. Is Mark back?
I don't believe so. He said he
Okay.
was gonna send me a chat when he does, and I haven't seen it pop back up.
Okay. Robert?
I don't have any concerns with the plan, but I will note for the applicant that obviously the site is in very close proximity. It's mostly in the upland review area. So working with your contractors during the renovation to make sure that they understand they need to stay within the design to minimize the impacts on the wetlands will be important. But the proposal, I think, is acceptable and can be approved. End of comment.
Okay, thank you. Dave?
Couple of quick ones. You talked about the size of the two basins being adequate. Does it catch the first inch of runoff from the whole site? Is that the basis that you were looking at?
I believe so. We have a full hydraulic analysis by Skip Alford on this, and I know we comply with all the, basic, the requirements for stormwater discharge as well as water quality renovation.
So I saw this staff recommendation was to add a silt sock to the silt fence by the.
Pardon?
Add a silt sock to the silt fence by the basin in the back of the building.
Oh, yeah, we clarified that with Bruce. That was all taken care of.
All right. And when I think there was some talk of cleaning out the culvert by that access road to the towers in the back.
All that's noted and taken care of on the new plans.
Very good. Thank
It
you.
should be on the next sheet. Actually, Shannon, go up to the next sheet. Please, S&E control, the next one down, L5.
Yeah, that's right there.
Yeah, if you see the hatched area right by the pipe on the upper, that has a note about cleaning all the refuse. Then there's one on the side that we talked about getting all the debris and the garbage, and the one in the back of the building. So I've incorporated those in the S&E control plan as well.
Very good. Thank you.
I need to unmute first. Emily, any questions, comments, concerns?
I have none at this time. No, sir.
Okay, Rich?
No, I don't have any questions or concerns. Thank you.
I don't really have any questions either. A couple that I might have had, other people beat me to the punch. I'm just happy to hear though that, some of those areas that we saw and suggested to clean out, that's on the plan. So that's much appreciated. So thank you. So basically going by the comments I've been hearing, would somebody care to make a motion to approve the application? I don't think I'm muted.
This is
No, yeah,
Statch.
it's group tonight.
This is Statch, and I'll make a motion to approve the application. With the implication that they're continuing to work with town staff on the recommendations.
Okay.
Oh, Mr. Chair, I'm sorry. We need to do determination of significance first. I apologize. It was
Okay.
not done at the previous meeting.
Okay,
Sorry.
not a problem. So Ned can withdraw his motion.
I'll withdraw my motion.
And if he'd like, he can make a motion about the significance.
I would make a motion that this is not a significant increase of use on the property. Basically, it's a very similar parking lot as is the previous parking lot, and it will be a much improved use of the property. I mean, much improved state of the property at the completion of the project.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, so we have a motion on the table saying this is not a significant activity. Those in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstaining? Okay. So now, Ned, would you like to follow up
I'll
with your first
now
motion?
make a motion to approve this application with the stipulation that they continue to follow the recommendations of town staff and the report.
Is there a second?
I'll second this one too. Dave,
All right. So based on what I heard from folks, that doesn't sound like there are many questions or comments. So those in favor of this application signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstaining? Thank you.
Thank you all. Have a good evening.
Thank you. And
Thank
Shannon,
you.
that's why you get paid the big bucks to remind us when we're out of order.
Hey, no problem. Just glad I caught it myself. Okay, and
Next item on the agenda is Farmington West Estates Limited Partners, Lot 155, White Trail Run.
yeah,
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Attorney James Ziogas, 104 Bellevue Avenue for the applicant. Can you hear me all right?
we
Yes,
sure
sir.
can.
Thank you. This is a proposed 6-lot subdivision relating to Farmington West Estates, which is basically an expandable planned unit development. The additions of lots 153 through 158 will increase the total number of lots in the subdivision to 101. And it's expandable to the extent that another 82 units can be built in the future. 5 of the 6 lots in this subdivision right now are not within the uplands review area. Our only concern is lot 155, which approximately 1/3 of that lot is in the review area. The storm water for the existing site flows predominantly in a northwesterly direction towards newly developed houses in phase 4, which is known as Coyote Court. On the west side, a 1-foot-high vegetated berm will be installed along the property line between the subject site and the existing houses that are in phase 4 to prevent stormwater runoff from pervious areas of the development of phase 5. The water captured by the berm will be routed through a proposed piping to a yard drain in the southwest corner of the property. All the drainage will be directed towards the drainage system, which is going to be located in the street. There are 3 catch basins. Those catch basins then tie into the stormwater system on Snowberry Lane and then further empty into a detention area, a water quality basin, which is in the southerly part of the entire property. Runoff from the developed portions of the site along Plainville Avenue will also be bermed, and that runoff will not go across the property, but it will be diverted towards the brook and the open space area. So that's a brief overview of what we're looking to do in this proposed subdivision. And as I said, only that 1 lot is of any concern. We don't think it's going to impact the wetlands at all. There is open space that's going to surround this subdivision. And we certainly think it's a reasonable and prudent use of the land.
So, Mr. Chair, if I may, this is Coyote Court, which was approved approximately 2 years ago. This is the water course that runs to the west of Coyote Court, and the wetland delineation that is coincident with that water course, and the 150-foot upland review area that comes through. So it's this lot here is impacted by the 150-foot upland that's actually for this water course that was more prominent when Coyote Court was discussed. And so if you come back to this site plan, this is that same lot. This is the 150-foot upland, and then these are the Coyote Court parcels, and then the water course is over here off the edge of this particular plan. just for helping contextually.
Yeah, so the primary activity may be a little bit of the house, but it's mostly the berm and some grading, correct? In the setback
Correct.
area.
That's correct.
Okay, start with Jay. Any questions, comments, concerns?
I don't think so right now. I'll reserve judgment. But right now, no questions, no comments.
Okay, Ned?
I'm just kind of curious. So how is that berm being made? Is it, I'm trying to read that. It's 4 feet wide, 1 foot high?
That's correct.
Okay,
And it's going to be vegetated, of course.
okay. And, no, that's all I have. There's one on each side. I'm not really sure what the purpose of the one on the other side is for. Is it just privacy kind of?
No, actually the water sheds from the northwest across.
Oh, okay.
So what we're trying to do is we're trying to preserve the backyards of these people and keeping the water in the open space area, which is along Plainville Avenue.
Oh, so then you would get, the runoff comes off of 177 also and into this kind of buffer area there, and then that berm is trying to help
Direct
keep
it.
some of that water out, redirect the water back towards the drainage
Correct.
of the roadway. Okay. All right, that's all I have. Thank you.
Okay. I'm gonna assume Mark's not back yet, so Robert?
No concerns. The development is actually further away from the wetlands than when Coyote Court was developed. In terms of, whether or not we're going to want to do a site walk, it will depend on whether or not there were any issues with the construction of Coyote Court. So Shannon, I'll sort of ask you if there are any issues that came up during the construction of Coyote Court that we may want to look at and consider for the development of this parcel. If there are no issues during the development of Coyote Court, I would not feel the need to go out and do a site walk.
So
Shannon,
Coyote Court is currently under construction. So I think there's one, maybe 2 houses up. I know we just saw 2 building permits come through. So it is currently a very active construction site at this particular point in time. So I haven't been out there. I haven't been out there personally in quite some time. Bruce had done the initial review and check on the soil erosion control when they were getting started and clearing the lot. And I know he's been in touch. Of course, it had been quiet over the winter, and now everything's kicking up. I don't know if he's been back out there once everything, now that we're in spring season. So we can in the next, we certainly can in the next 2 weeks and report back. But unfortunately, I don't have more concrete information for you than that.
okay, thanks. That's it, Bob.
All right, thank you. Dave?
No, I don't have any questions, thanks.
Emily?
No, I do not.
Rich?
No questions.
No, I don't really have any either. This is pretty similar to what we've seen going on out on this larger parcel. But just out of curiosity, Shannon, when was this overall project approved? I mean, it goes back a long time, doesn't it?
Yes, it does.
My recollection, Shannon, is somewhere around 2007, I believe.
Okay, yeah, Sandy thought it was before '06, but I'm not.
Okay.
And part of it gets a little murky because it had gone through permitting, and then of course, there was an appeal, and it was.
Yeah, I know, and Judge Berger
back.
ruled in favor of the applicant.
Yeah, so it's going back and finding that appeal date. I think at the time, it certainly predated having a separate wetlands and, TPZ. So that's
Yes, it did.
without any doubt, yes,
Yes. I will
Yeah.
attest to that.
Yeah.
Okay. So at this point, we need to accept the application. So can I get a motion to accept the application?
Action so moved.
Is there a second?
Dave will second that.
Okay, those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Vote. Abstain. Okay, so we have accepted the application. What's your thought about needing a site walk? I know Robert made a comment. I don't feel a need. I mean, it's pretty similar to what we saw in the last development, and that was a whole lot closer to the water course. So I just don't see any issue for going out there right now. And if we haven't had any problems with coyote, I'd be less inclined to worry about this one. This is my take. Anybody else have any questions on
Yeah,
that?
this is Ned. I agree because we did do a site walk on the adjacent building plots, and we, you know, we certified those, and this is even just a smaller corner that's affected of one lot, so I don't think a building lot of site visit is required.
Okay. Anybody else have any strong feeling about doing a site walk? Not hearing any, so I don't think we need to do a site walk. And do we have to do significance on this too?
You, ultimately you will, it's your choice whether or not you want to make that decision tonight or tomorrow.
I'm
Or,
going to
that's
entertain a
next meeting.
motion that this is not a significant activity. I mean, it's part of a project that had been in general approved many, many years ago. So it's just trying to backfill some of the spaces now. So, I mean, that would be my take.
This is Ned. I would make a motion that this is not significant use of the property, and it seems to follow all the other previous building lots, and they've seem to be going along, and we've approved the coyote group, so I don't see this as significant.
Is there a second?
This is Jay, I'll second.
Okay, so we have a motion on the floor that this is not a significant activity. Those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed, abstaining? Okay, so it is not a significant activity. And I think we're done with this for the night, correct?
Correct, because we can't do anything else with it till the next meeting. Correct.
Okay.
Thank you, Shannon. Thank you, commissioners.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, so moving right along, and Mr. Chairman, Mr. Simpson has joined us,
Okay,
so he's back.
so we're
for
on
number-
70 Wood Pond Road
Yes.
to bring Mr. Simpson up to date where we're at on the agenda.
I'm present. Send a battery as well and then have it prepared to be towed. Hello, I'm present.
Okay, is this Jennifer Gupta?
Hello, yes.
Okay, would you please explain your request to the commission?
Yes, please. Basically, we're new to the neighborhood. We redid our home, and it was abandoned for many years, and we finished construction and moved in and right when COVID hit. So we've been here, and there's no storage on the property. It is a lake property. There is no shed or any kind of boathouse or anything like that. But we do need a shed for obvious reasons, storage. We wanted to put the shed, but we were told that certain areas of the backyard just are not acceptable for that. So we also have surrounding our home in the back is a hill. So the hill is obviously, would need to be like heavily excavated to put a shed there, which would probably cause more damage to the area and the wetlands surrounding it. But basically, we just would like to put a shed. The association and ourselves feel that where we indicated on the applications, although may not be as convenient as we would have liked for it, but it's probably the best place just as far as impact to the environment and in particular the lake.
And the shed size is 12 by 16?
That's correct.
Okay.
We did supply the company that we purchased the shed from, all of their specs, and it is within, the limits set by the town for a shed.
Okay. Rich, any questions, comments, concerns?
No, I don't have any questions or concerns.
Emily?
No, none at all. This seems fairly straightforward.
Dave?
I'm set, really pretty innocuous project.
Robert?
Generally, I'm fine with the request, and the distance between the shed and the pond is how many feet?
65.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I think I would lean towards a determination that it's a permitted use as of right. The shed is, 12 by 16. It's a normal size residential shed. It's being placed with reasonable separating distance to the wetlands. It has the approval of the homeowners association. So I think it's a reasonable proposal and falls within the provision for use as of right. End of comment.
Okay, thank you. Mark?
I think it's appropriate to have the shed put there. I have no issues with it.
Okay, Ned?
Yeah, does this shed have a like a wood floor and it, or is it, do you have a concrete base poured for it?
They prep the ground just with like a stone prep, and then
Yeah.
it is raised. It's like on like 4x4s, and then the floorboards are
Okay.
4x2s with then like a wood on top.
Yeah.
So it is raised up on, and it sits on like a bed of rocks that I believe go whatever they say. It's like a foot around, so that the drip line falls into the rocks and does not create any erosion.
Yeah, and the stone keeps the groundwater away from the wood of the shed. Yeah, okay. Yeah, this looks a straightforward use of the property.
Jay?
Yeah, I think the same thing, permitted as of right use. Thank you.
Yeah, the only issue that I have or concern I have is what might be stored in there. And it's more from the perspective of, I'm assuming that there's a garage associated with the house. Where would you be storing things like gasoline? I mean, I'm not overly concerned about lawnmowers or snow blowers or things of that nature, but I'd be a little concerned about if gasoline or things of that nature would be stored in the shed. Have you given any thought to that?
It is a motorless lake, so all of our vessels and such are all man-powered kayaks and paddle boards and things of that nature. So we don't have any motorized vessels that we would be putting in there.
Okay, so the intent is not really to have anything in there, liquids like gasoline or diesel fuel or things of that nature, correct?
No, it's like a boathouse. So basically just lawn furniture and then, when it's the winter time, a place to store, like I said, all of the fun water sports.
Okay. Now, I mean, if that's the case, I'm fine with what you're proposing to do. I agree with Robert that I think it's a use that's pretty much allowed by right. So Shannon, do we need a motion to that effect?
Yes, please.
So I don't know if Robert, you want to make the motion. So you're the first one to mention it.
Sure. Just make sure I'm not on mute. Okay. I move the proposal to place a shed at 70 Wood Pond Road is determined to be a permitted use as of right under regulation section 4.A.4.
Is there a second?
I'll second Ned.
Okay. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Abstaining? Good luck with your shed.
Thank you for your time. Have a great evening.
You too. Take care. Thank you.
Okay, and Mr. Chair, I'm just going to see the next applicant indicated he could not join till about 8:30 this evening, so I'm just going to check. Is Rob Vincent, I'm not saying. Yeah, but those are for the next.
Okay,
So
there's still two others.
So, yeah, we'll just move. I told him we'd move on, and then we'd come back. When I saw him log in, we'd come back to him, so.
Okay. So items
Okay, so
Dana
we're
Hinman,
gonna hit,
37 Mountain Lane.
yes, so I gotta grab that plan. Not. There we go. Okay, and I believe Brian Cunningham is on to discuss this project. Is that correct,
Yes, I
Brian?
am. Yes, I am. Good evening.
Okay. So the floor is yours to provide an update to the commission and let them know what we're doing here.
Okay. As some of you are aware, I was involved with this application back in 2019. There was concerns about sedimentation and erosion control on the construction site. We implemented an inspection protocol where we visited the site, took photos, and sent a report with recommendations to town staff and the contractor. As we were going through construction, getting near the end, we still were having some issues with erosion, and we had some erosion over the septic field, which is located in the center of that view. It appeared the way the contractor constructed the ditch from the cul-de-sac is different than was originally proposed. And he had a level spreader from where Shannon just was, headed to the east across the and above the septic field with that level spreader. I met with the contractor on site, and because of the extent of the erosion around the leach field, made a decision to route the storm flow along the old woods road and head it south, and then we looped it off the road, and that's our proposal, is to go further, but we stopped it short by the there's a 426 contour, I believe, right near the curve. Yeah, right around there is where the interim plan went. As we were conducting the as-built survey, we found that the outfall at that location was in a bad spot. what would happen is the outfall would flow down gradient, would flow like due south over the top of the neighbor's approved but not constructed septic system. So we implemented a plan to change the grade and direction of the ditch, extend it around so that the water flow would flow to the east of that septic system, which is down gradient, to address those flows. What we're proposing is to get the flow into a 4-foot wide ditch with 2-to-1 side slopes. We did an assessment of the shear stress due to the water flow in the ditch, and we're recommending a Recyclix it's a man-made fiber that grass grows through in the ditch lining, and then we expanded the outfall. Thank you, Shannon. That's the product, Recyclix TRMV. We at the end of the ditch, we end up at about elevation 417, and we expanded the end of the ditch to 20 feet. So it goes from 4 feet to 20 feet in about 15 feet. So we're taking that flow and spreading it out before it starts flowing overland, essentially parallel to the property line. You can see the contours are running it down, and it heads into the same wetland that all the flow from the site goes to as originally proposed. You do see off the properties to the south, the wetland limit itself. It's on some neighbor's property. And the upland review line is higher. If you can go back up to show, okay, now it disappeared. There's the upland review, 150-foot upland review. So really just the end of the ditch and where we spread the flow out is within the upland review area. So we're looking for a permit to do that. I almost would call it a repair. We need to make some adjustments to the ditch. We did show this concept to Farmington Valley Health District, and they had no objection to this proposal. As part of our ongoing reviews of the erosion control measures, there's also some work proposed on the east side of the property. The contractor had built a temporary stilling basin right about where Shannon's hand is there. We want to make that a permanent feature. Looking at the flow that comes down, what I did was we routed that flow through our hydrology software, and we slightly expanded the stilling basin that was built, and we're providing a defined outfall, a 2-foot wide weir. This whole area would be stabilized again with the Recyclix material. Since the contractor is already going to be purchasing some for the ditch design, it has the same characteristics hydraulically as far as stability as like a modified riprap would have. So we'll stabilize the inside, the sides of that basin. It's not a very large basin. It's about 8-foot round radius bottom. It'll be about 2 foot deep till you get to the weir elevation. And the calculations show that for a 25-year storm, I've got about 3 inches of depth over that 2-foot weir. And then the water flow will just proceed down the slope again to that wetland down below. I do note the slopes are rather steep on that side of the property. However, before we get into the wetland, the area does flatten out substantially, so that by the time we get to the wetland, I'm fairly certain that the flows wouldn't have adverse effect on the wetland. In discussions with Bruce, I have a second plan sheet. Bruce thought it would be prudent for you to be aware of activities that were approved but not constructed. And I attempted to show that on this sheet. I'll start on the west side. The clearing limits were shown to be down the property line to the west and then coming across above the old woods road and then continuing across the property. And then there was some sloping and filling associated with extending the curtain drain that Shannon was almost at, right there. There was some proposed work to do there. The contractor was able to steepen up the slopes sufficient over that pipe, the outlet, to not have to do filling over and require that pipe to be extended. It was originally going to be extended about 8 feet. So we said, well, then let's not do the clearing down there, and we won't extend that slope, and we want to extend that pipe. So we left the woods the way they were, as you can see in the line up connecting between the septic leach field and there you go, and where that jog was. There was a level spreader proposed. It ran east to west. It goes, there's some dash, if you go further to the west, Shannon, all the way to the property line almost, you start seeing these dashed lines, the two parallel lines that are dashed. Thank you, that's good. So the original plan was to construct a ditch from the town right away, or drainage right away, parallel to the property line and into this level spreader, which was to go from one end of the property all the way across the property. I think it was like 300 feet long. And we'll go back to the west side. And when they filled for the yard, they created a fill slope, and he created a ditch along the base of that fill slope that went down and curved and was supposed to, you know, you're showing where it goes now. That's what I was trying to explain on the other sheet. I think it shows up easier here, but you can see the path of the stormwater from the town right away, drainage right away, down, follow those arrowheads.
Mm-hmm.
And we can see where it crosses the septic system down on the next property. So,
right.
So there's like, I got a number here somewhere. About 100 feet of level spreader was not constructed, and we're proposing not to do anything with that, but rather do the ditch that I talked about to route the flow around the septic system instead of that. And the other plan actually showed a little more clearing that would be needed. It's about 8,000 square feet to do the ditch. If you go back up to the level spreader, Shannon, on the east side of the property, the contractor came down the driveway and created a steep slope down from the end of the driveway. And in doing so, did not construct the last 25 feet of level spreader on the east side due to access issues. During construction, a stilling basin was constructed at the end of off the end of the driveway to the north, right where Shannon's circling. And that seems to be working fairly well. I think that should stay. The driveway's pitched so that the runoff from the driveway goes into that before it flows down, and that slope that's there has been stabilized with a thick blanket of wood chip mulch, like one grind worth. That seems to be holding fairly well. And then we got into that basin that I talked about, right around where Shannon's cursor is there. And this particular sheet shows some stray contours that I was not as diligent as I should have been. That shows some proposed work there. They're not there. That's proposed on the other plan sheet. I don't know, it showed up twice. I was getting frustrated with that. But that's the comparison of, what was built and what was built, the level spreader between where we diverted, going across. So you can see the contours there. Also, there was, if you go, I'm sorry to do this to you, Shannon. If you go back across the level spreader about 2/3 to the east a little more, that's where the roof leader and foundation drain was originally proposed. Yeah, right there. The contractor, when he put his pipes in, he put them in going to the west where Shannon's showing. We took advantage of that when we we regraded the end of the level spreader to keep the flow from the roof leader and foundation drain combined with the street drainage and flowed down gradient from there, so that we had no more additional flow going into the level spreader. Again, we had that issue before we did those repairs with a breach in the level spreader that washed out a portion of the that exposed some of the leach field. That's since been repaired to the satisfaction of the health district. So that's what I'd like to propose that we be allowed to do, is to extend that ditch as was shown on this sheet here, and to construct a little stilling basin on the east side of the property on the other side. And the grades are at the end of the ditch, they're like 2%. So we've transitioned from a rather steep grade on the ditch, flattened it out as we get toward the outfall, and then really flattened it out before we spread the flow out and let it trickle down the slope. So with that, I would open it up to the commission to discuss next steps.
Rich, any comments, questions, concerns?
I have a couple questions. There is a curtain drain on the existing curtain drain on the uphill side of the septic system. And is that 4-inch pipe that comes from the stilling basin? Is that the outlet of that curtain drain? No, those are separate pipes that we didn't want to mess with the curtain drain. So we're just going to cap the pipe. Last I remember, the pipe was extended upwards, and there's no flow from the stilling basin going down that curtain drain outlet. All the flow from the stilling basin flows over the weir and runs down gradient. But where does that curtain drain outlet? Oh, it extends roughly parallel to, there's a conservation easement line from the if you look at the stilling basin and you come to the southeast, it says 4-inch PVC, that's the outlet right there from the curtain drain. Okay, so that 4-inch PVC is the outlet from the curtain drain. That's correct. That was put in before we did the
soil test for the septic system design.
Okay.
There's a similar one for the lot down below also. Similar
Okay.
design construction.
All right. And you said the health district has approved this this proposal?
Yes, they sent us an email stating that, and I forwarded that to town staff.
Okay. That's all I have.
Okay, thank you. Emily?
Yeah, thanks. My question is also actually was also, I guess, what's downstream of that curtain drain output, but I guess that's that. So thank you very much.
Okay, Dave?
No questions, thanks.
Robert?
No questions here.
Mark still with us?
Yes, I'm still here. No questions. Thank you.
Ned?
This is active construction going on right now?
Pretty much wrapped up. We're trying to get the site stabilized so that they can proceed with the CO for the homeowner.
Okay. And that erosion control map, so that's just the water in the swale just kind of flows over that and then soaks into the soil, or?
It does. What happens, Ned, is you grade the bottom of the ditch, you plant your grass seed, then you roll this material on top. It's like ground up plastic in a netting in a that contains all that. It's rather heavy, so it doesn't float. It's in the specs. You can see that if you care. The grass will germinate and will grow through this material, and that in concert with the matting becomes the permanent lining to prevent erosion.
Okay. That's all I have. Thank you.
Jay?
I don't have any questions. Thank you.
Seeing as how I was on this commission in 2012 when it first came up, I have to admit that I'm still kind of surprised that we're still seeing issues out here. I mean, I understand what it is that you're trying to do, but based on these plans, one question I have, it's hard to see, but to the right of the arrow where you've got that flared riprap channel, it
Yes.
talks about a level spreader, but I just want to make sure I understand what you mean by a level spreader.
It's just the end of it's like a splash pad.
See, that to me is not a level spreader. A level spreader is where you're going to install something that's going to be pretty much at a uniform height so that water may pond up a little bit behind it, slow
Okay.
down and flow over it, because I know these are highly erosive soils, at least from what I remember walking out on the site and what we saw. I mean, that the primary concern I would have is just the erodibility of the soils. So I guess part of that may tie in that if this goes forward, we may have to be looking at a specific time of the year. It may be more the summertime when it's drier. But then again, I don't know how that's going to work with germinating grass. I mean, you're kind of caught in the crosshairs here where you're working with a site trying to get some grass established, but at the same time, you've got a highly erodible soil out there. So that's where my primary concern would be. I understand what you're doing and why you need to move the water away from the lower septic system. And I fully understand that. So, and that's kind of where my questions lie in terms of sort of the discharge at the end. And because I don't really know what's on the slope below what you're labeling as a level spreader.
Yeah.
I don't know if what's being proposed will or will not create some localized handling and potential problems. I just don't know.
Yeah, it's a heavily wooded area, lots of scrub brush and vines and not a lot of fun to walk, but I think with all that in there, there's enough um, natural debris to work toward slowing the flow
Okay,
to reduce. I mean, I'm concerned as you with that, but I think aside from if I were, maybe I should have worded it more like a splash pad, but essentially that's what it is. It's just a flat area where the flow is getting spread out at the end of the 4-foot ditch to slow the flow, spread it out, helps disperse it so it's not concentrated in a narrow.
I mean, that's where I'm coming from as well. That's where my concern is. So, I mean, that may be something that can take a little closer look at just to make sure what's being proposed may be the best for the site. Because if this goes forward, I'd like to see it go through once and finally put this site to rest, as you probably are as well.
Yeah. To that, Bob, one option I looked at before I came up with this was to angle the ditch more easterly. But in doing that, now I was putting the water down the steeper contour area.
Yep.
So I felt it was better to keep it as far to the west as I could, keeping the flow again to the property and in the as flat an area as I could. And there still is a flatter area from the 390 contour that really flattens out down on the bottom there. So you got even more dispersion, but just getting from point A to that point. And then that's where your concern is, and as was ours.
And I don't know, this is just something just off the top of my head with some other sites that I've seen. I don't know if there's a way of maybe going in and installing some silt socks down the slope. Not where you have to go in and do cutting or anything, but you know, it's in case there is some kind of flow where water's channelizing and picking up speed, maybe that's a way of helping to curtail the flow. But again, I'm just talking off the top of my head and some of the other things I've seen on other projects. So, I mean, that's where my primary concern is, just knowing what the soils are like on the site and making sure that we don't run into erosion problems. That's my primary concern. So I don't really have anything else. So on this, Shannon, I guess we need to accept the application. I think that's the stage we're at here.
Correct.
And has, just double checking. And staff still has some questions on this? Or have you guys reviewed it?
I think we've resolved most of them. Bruce and I have been back and forth a couple of times with Brian regarding comments. I think we've resolved most of them at this point.
Okay, so at this stage of the game, I think what I'd like to hear is a motion to accept the application. Somebody willing to do that?
Thatchin, so moved.
Is there a second?
Jay, I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion to accept the application. Those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstaining. Okay, so we have that. Now, one of the questions is, do people want to do a site walk on this?
Bob, I have a question. Based on your comments, you're saying you don't want them to run into a problem with this, but I thought they already have erosion problems. Is that true or?
They've had them on the site before, and just knowing what the soils are like on the site, I just want to make sure and feel comfortable that with what they're proposing, it is not going to lead to other erosion issues. That's all.
Okay. All right.
Does that help?
Yeah.
Okay. So, I mean, what's people's thought about a site walk? Do you think that's something that is needed?
This is Jay. It doesn't sound like a bad idea to me.
Just make sure you bring a walking stick.
Yeah. I won't wear white sneakers this time.
So Rich, what's your thought?
I could be convinced either way. I mean, it seems what they're proposing seems to be a pretty simple solution to the problem. But I'll defer to the other members.
All right. Emily, any comments?
I'm not convinced it's necessary, but if you folks want to have one, so be it.
Dave?
I guess I'm in the same camp. It looks like a fairly small incursion into the upland review area, but it's hard to get a real feel for the thing looking at the paper. So
Okay, Mark?
Yeah, I'm not feeling strongly about a site visit.
Okay, Ned?
Well, I mean, I think they did a lot less clearing on this thing than they originally planned. And with that, we're just barely catching the 150 upland review area. So I don't know. I mean, I could go either way, but I don't think it's really necessary. It seems like the town staff and Brian have kind of worked out a solution, and if it doesn't work, then the town staff will have to keep working on a solution.
Okay.
Well, we've got homeowners that really want to get into the house, so, because the site hasn't been stabilized, we haven't been able to sign off on the CO, so.
Gotcha.
Okay. Shannon, can you slide the screen over a little bit, move it to the left? I'm just trying to check some comments that are over, no, the other way. Yeah, okay, because that is one thing that I don't think will work, is that the sediment control fence. I think that's going to need to be silt sock, something like that. I'm not sure that one of the best things to do over there is start digging up the soil to be able to bury the bottom edge of the sediment control fence. So, I mean, I would be more inclined to take a look at something like that. Just, again, it's a tough site, so I just don't have a whole lot of faith in sedimentation control fence, but that's just my personal take. I'm not sure it's necessary to take a walk out there. I mean, it's not going to be that big of a project. I think town staff needs to be advised as to when any work would be taking place there, and making sure that whatever erosion control measures are called for, again, assuming this goes forward, that they're installed prior to the work. I think that's going to be the critical aspect of it. So, okay, I mean, it sounds to me like people are saying they don't really think you need a site walk on this. The health department seems to be okay with it. It's a relatively small modification. So I think, Shannon, we probably don't need the site walk on it. That's my take.
Okay. Yeah, that's fine. And there's plenty of photos, so I can share those with folks, and I think can get everyone oriented. It's tough when you're not there, but I think we can get folks oriented with a handful of photos to see what's going on and why this needed to be done.
Okay. And then again, this seems to be a relatively minor modification. So my take would be, I don't think it's a significant activity. But I'll take a quick run through the rest of the staff or council members to determine. Rich,
No, I would definitely agree. This is not a significant application.
Emily,
Not significant.
Dave,
Agree, not significant.
Robert,
Not significant.
Mark,
Not significant.
Ned,
Not significant.
Jay.
I'll go along with that too. Thank you.
Okay, so can I get a motion indicating that this is not a significant activity?
So moved by Robert.
Is there a second?
Jay, I'll second. Oh,
Give it
never
Jay a
mind.
second.
Okay, we heard Jay. So we have a motion on the floor that this is not a significant activity. Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstaining? Okay, so we can't do anything further today.
Correct. Yep, and I'll get photos out to everyone, and I've made a couple of notes on some additional conditions that might be helpful.
Okay.
So we'll share those for the next meeting.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, and I believe the applicant for our new business 5 is on the phone, I think.
18 Red Coat
Robin?
Lane?
Yeah, Rob, are you on the phone? Maybe? He was. Okay, let me see if I can. He's on the panelist list, right? Yep. Yep. Asked on mute. Okay.
Hello?
Rob, are you there? There you go. All right. So I've got your plan that you did for us up on the screen.
Okay.
If you could just do a quick run through for the commission, what you're looking to do so they understand your application.
Okay, so what we're trying to do is install an above ground pool. We have the house right here in the front. At some point, we would like to do a deck. I don't think we're going to do it this year with the price of lumber the way it is. So the pool's about 30 feet off the house. And then it would be the 24-foot wide by 28-foot deck, and then a little pool deck, step-up pool deck into the pool. The electrical, I believe my contractor already tried to pull the permit, but that's being done by a contractor. Ideally, I would like to put the filter behind the pool. But if you guys don't want it there, I can move it up to this location where it says filter. That's pretty much it. It's pretty straightforward. I'm about 74 feet off the rear property line and 54 feet away from the wet area in the spring, which is like the buffer zone we agreed upon like the first time everyone came out when I had taken some trees down. And then it's actually closer to the house than the shed is also. And I believe the shed was approved and at least 150 feet away from the wetlands already.
Thank you.
Okay. So we'll start with Jay. Any questions, comments, concerns?
No, sounds pretty straightforward.
Ned?
I don't have any well, let me just say, what is there a cleaning, how is the filter cleaned?
So it's a cartridge filter. So there's no backwashing, so we don't have to worry about like water runoff and stuff like that. I would spray it with a hose, which could be done closer to the house and all that. It's not like a diatomaceous earth filter that's gonna be backwash and pump any DE out into the yard, and it's not a sand filter that's gonna again need to be backwash or anything like that. It's just a cartridge that will get rinsed off periodically.
Yeah, if it's just a cartridge filter, then you should be able to put it where you want. And I can understand that, you know, the noise of the pump, if the filter's running, can be kind of loud. Consider, you know, having it right next to the deck. So you're probably better off putting it towards the back of the pool. As long as there's no backwash or altering, you know, it's if a cartridge filter, then it should be fine. That's all I have.
Okay, Mark?
It looks like, you know, normal residential use to me, so I have no question.
Okay. Robert?
Just one question. So the area right now, is it currently just a grass lawn area?
Yes. Yep.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, you know, I think this is going to fall under the residential exemption for use as of right. End of comment.
Dave?
No questions, and I agree, use as of right.
Emily?
This feels like a very standard, very expected use of the property. I have no questions at all.
Okay, Rich?
The only question I have is where the wetlands are. Are they off the property to the rear?
So we had been on this property back in 2018. There's a water course that runs along the rear property line, but there is no, because this subdivision predates the wetland regulations. It dates back to the 60s. There are no flagged wetlands, and we did not ask them to flag wetlands back in 2018, but it was clear that, you know, this area would most likely be classified as a wetland type soil if we were to come in and have a soil scientist flag this area. So as Mr. Vincent noted, I think we suggested it be seeded with a wet meadow mix, and there's some boulders that he had moved that were basically, you know, along a line in this vicinity. So this area was to, you know, be left naturalized adjacent to the brook that runs through the back portion that's off of his property.
Okay,
that
thank
help?
you, Shannon. That helps a lot. Yeah, I would agree with the other commission members that this is as of right. Thank you.
I just got a couple of questions for clarification. You have future pool deck and future house deck on the plans. Is it the future pool deck that you're proposing to do at this point in time as it relates to the installation of the pool?
No, actually, neither deck is going to be done this year. The ladder system that's being provided by the pool company is a gated self-latching ladder. So both those decks would be future and just added to this drawing for clarification, just for approval purposes as well, just for the whole scope of the thought process and project.
Okay, now I just wanted to double check on that. The other question I have is something that you cannot answer, but the pool company, I think, should be able to answer. And that is, what are the chemicals that are in the floor foam? So is that something that you can get some information from the contractor as to what is in the floor foam? Because I see that has been highlighted in yellow. So I'm assuming that's part of the project.
Yeah, so I could find that out.
Yeah, if you can do that and get the information to Shannon, that would be much appreciated.
Okay, I will email them
Okay.
tomorrow and email Shannon tomorrow as well.
Nope, that's fine. I mean, my guess is it's probably not going to be an issue, but I just want to make sure that we know what's in it before it goes in.
Okay.
All right, thank you.
And that's an add-on, so
yeah,
it doesn't need to be there if there is an issue. I'm just so you know.
Yeah, no, I'm just trying to make, I mean, I'm not assuming that there is a problem with it, but they should have
some sort of MSD for it.
identifying what's in it, and that way staff can make a determination, okay, this, it's non-problematic and we're okay with it. So again, I just want to make sure that we're not biting off a little more we can chew on this. I mean, everybody thought the fire suppression foam was nice and safe, but it turns out with all the PFAS in it and stuff like that, you just don't want to invite trouble for yourself either.
Right.
So if you can get that to Shannon, that would be much appreciated.
Will do.
And I agree with earlier comments. I think this is something that can probably be done as an activity permitted as of right. So I think that was the general consensus of the group. So can somebody make a motion to that effect?
So moved that the installation of the pool and deck at 18 Redcoat Lane is determined to be a permitted use as of right per the regulation section 4.8, 4.A.4.
And would that be with the condition of getting the information in on the floor foam? You okay, Robert?
Yes, agreed.
Spring allergies.
Is there a second?
Second, Mark here.
Okay, so I have a motion on the floor where this would be an activity permitted as of right per section 4A4. Those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstaining. Good luck with the construction.
Thank you.
All righty. Our last one for the evening is right here. And I believe we have Mike Sweeney and or Bill Aston. I don't know if Bill's still on the phone, so I don't know which one of you wants to take the lead with this, but the floor is yours to discuss the project with the commission and the regulated areas and what you're looking to do.
Okay, well, I'll start. The lot was approved back in 2007 when it was subdivided by Ron Dolly. And it is accessed from the end of Northwoods Road cul-de-sac across an easement on town property to an easement on the abutters property, and then by a private driveway that was part of the subdivision that was approved in 2007. When the project was approved in 2007, the only portion that was really a concern of wetlands was the septic system was put 75 feet from the wetlands. So we honored that with the septic system that's up in the northeast corner of the property. When the subdivision was approved, it was approved on air topo. Since then, Mr. Sweeney has had the lot cleared and we got field topo there with the house and the septic system and downstream of the septic system. And when they did that topo, they found some storm drainage that is downhill of the septic system, and within the required, it's too close to the septic system to remain. So we have to excavate that pipe and put it back to sheet flow across the top of the land. Historically, I believe there was a driveway or an old farm road that went from the northeast corner of the site across the west, right about through where the new driveway cul-de-sac is, and then up onto the abutting property to the west. And that's what that culvert was for. It's no longer needed, and it affects the only good area for septic system on this lot. So we have to take it out, just fill it back up and reseed and mulch it so that it won't erode. And then flow from the septic system will be underground in that area and won't be intercepted by any pipes, which lead directly to the wetlands. So that's the story on the septic system. The house is basically as it was, it's longer than it was on the schematic plan approved in 2007. It's set 60 feet off of the proposed new private road, or 10 feet off of the building line that was approved. Bruce has done a preliminary review on it, and he suggested that we put in a temporary sediment trap, which we're putting in an area that's already cleared. And all the silt fence that is shown, except for around the drainage that I just talked about, has been installed. We might need to modify a little bit of it around the sediment trap, but that's all installed, and it's probably installed the best silt fence I've ever seen installed. It's actually dug into the ground and backfilled properly. I don't see that too often, but his contractor has done a good job on that. The driveway is on the subdivision was required to be 18 feet wide out to the street, and that's shown on the next section. The existing bridge at the cul-de-sac is only 12 feet wide, but there's very steep banks down from both sides of it. So we are going to go to the zoning board, I believe, and ask them to accept 18 feet from the bridge toward the houses and leave the driveway only 2 feet wider than it is now. To do that, we're going to build a concrete wall on the south side of the driveway. There's a detail of that shown on the plan. Take down 4 hemlocks, which actually the wires go through some of the hemlocks, so they're all cut off the top already. Take down 1 more big tree, and the rest of the widening can be done adjacent to the existing 12-foot pavement on both sides and stay within the right-of-way. But we do some on that side, and if you over by the telephone pole, Shannon, there's a little bit of widening right there too to make it 18 feet. That's the project in a nutshell. If you do go out there, you'll see that the silt fence is in, and it's in pretty good condition. You can see the benchmark that they put in for the septic system of delineated additional clearing that needs to be done for the septic system and the curb drain that needs to be installed. That's on the north boundary. So if you have any questions for me, I'd be happy to answer them. Otherwise, I don't want to take up any more of your time tonight.
Okay, start with Rich. Any questions, comments?
No, I don't have any questions.
Emily?
I actually have none.
Dave?
Questions at this time. Unfortunately, I didn't have a chance to look at this before the meeting, so it's new to me. Thanks.
Okay. Robert?
No questions.
Mark?
Yeah, is this the only lot back there? Or there's more than just this lot in this area. I know there's a lot of open acreage up there. I just didn't know if there was more other lots available.
Well, the north property line is the Avon town line. There are some lots that come off of Sturbridge Lane in Avon on the north side of our property. There is 1 lot to the west that uses the common driveway that we're using. And in the front of it, it's right about on the end of where my cross section is, that's the existing house that Ron Dowley used to live in. So there's really no more area to develop around it unless the lot to the west can, that one's big enough to develop in the future, but right now it's, doesn't have enough frontage.
Okay, I didn't know if there was going to be more, another lot developed and still in using this access road. I'm just curious. No other questions.
Ned?
I don't have any questions right now.
Jay?
Nope, no questions.
I don't really have anything at this point in time either. So I guess the first thing is, can I get a motion to accept the application?
So moved, Statton.
Is there a second?
Second, Mark.
Okay.
Second, Eisner.
They have a motion on the floor to accept the application. Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstaining, so application's accepted. What's your take about a site walk on this one? Rich?
I might want to take a look at this one.
Emily?
I could go either way on this.
Hey, Dave?
Wouldn't mind a site walk. I could actually probably walk to the site.
Okay, Robert?
I'll be out of state, so I'm not gonna weigh in on whether we should or should not have a site walk.
Okay. Mark?
I'm even closer than David to the site.
I'm sorry, what was that?
I'm even closer to the site than David, so I could walk there also. So I would be there.
Okay. Ned?
Yeah, I would attend.
Jay?
Yeah, I'll be there too, without my white sneakers this time.
Okay. Well, they wouldn't be white for long. Yeah, I mean, I'm probably in the same boat. I'd like to just get a better feel for what's being proposed out there. So I know, Shannon, on one of the other projects you're talking about, like April 17th or 18th, I think. Those were some dates you threw out.
Right, that's what I'm suggesting. It's the weekend prior to the next meeting.
Yeah. So maybe do that and then see what surprises we have out there. Hopefully none.
Okay. Do commission members have a preference? They want Saturday or Sunday, and does 8:30 work?
Saturday, 8:30 is good for me.
Yeah, it just makes me get up and do other things earlier.
Okay, we'll set it for April 17th at 8:30 a.m.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. I think that'll do it for here, and then we can do significance after the site walk.
Sounds like a plan.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay.
Okay.
And
1179 is off the table for tonight.
correct.
So planners report.
I don't have anything else.
Okay. I know I can find the paperwork buried somewhere in the house, but when is the household hazardous waste collection day again?
April 24th.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
So if there's nothing else there, then can I get a motion to approve the minutes of March 17th, 2021?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Right?
Okay. So have a motion to approve the minutes of March 17th, 2021. Those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Abstaining? Okay, and I think that's it for wetlands, correct?
Yes, sir.
So we'll close wetlands at 9:10 and start conservation, which if I remember correctly, there wasn't a whole lot on conservation either.
No, there isn't, because we haven't, I don't think they've met. They meet like tomorrow. I think they meet tomorrow is the
Yeah,
next meeting.
Yeah, I thought the one thing that I did see was the position for land acquisition.
So my understanding is it's underway,
Okay.
so,
Can I interrupt?
sure, go right ahead.
Town council appointed me last night.
Oh, fabulous. Congratulations.
Thank you.
You still have to go talk to Paula and get sworn in, right?
Say what?
I think you still
No,
have to.
Paula said I did not have to get sworn in
Okay.
because I represent the Conservation Commission. I already asked her that.
Okay.
Shannon, after you sent me that email with a few concerns and stuff, I've been talking with Paula, and she said I did not have to get sworn in.
Okay, perfect.
Okay, good. Good.
Follows the final say on that, so
Yep.
perfect.
She told me the same, this is Ned, she told me the same thing. I called and asked her and she says, no, because if you're being appointed as a result of your position on the inland wetlands, then it's really an inland wetlands assignment.
Okay.
So that means I'll see you tomorrow night, Ned.
Okay.
And Jay, then are you already on Liz Dolphin's email chain then, Jay?
That's a good question. I know I'm listed as a member, so I don't know. I'm not 100% sure.
Okay, I can follow up with Liz tomorrow to make sure that you get the agenda and everything.
Okay. Well, I went on the town site and already got the agenda because that's what I do, but I should probably be in the email chain.
Okay.
All right, thank you, Jay.
Thank you.
Anything other than approval of the minutes? Because I think that was it, wasn't it?
I think so.
That's
Yeah,
it.
and then, household hazardous waste is, like I said, then the 24th, and it'll have all the usual bells and whistles.
Except that we don't have to work it.
And you don't have to be, my guess is that, that probably won't come back. I mean, obviously, if years from now, you folks want to volunteer and spend your Saturday that way, I'm sure you can, but I think it's evolved now that they've got enough different communities, participating, and they're taking like 2 people from each community, from each highway department, that they've got it more than covered.
Yeah, just make sure you have a police car up there, so when you have that fender bender, like we've had in the past, police are right there to take down notes.
Nice.
We did, we had somebody run into the back of somebody else because they weren't paying attention. Okay, so I guess the last thing is, can I get a motion to approve the minutes of March 17, 2021 Conservation Commission meeting?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay. I have a motion on the floor to approve the March 17, 2021 Conservation Commission minutes. Those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Abstaining? Hey, it's not 11 o'clock.
Woohoo!